Hello, Kansas and Western fans. So today we're going to be working on my train wreck diorama. And since this is just a 2 foot wide by 4 foot long little section, I guess, here compared to what I've got going on in the train room, this thing should go together fairly quickly. So I'm going to do my video, I guess, diary on this or blog, I guess, on the build of this thing a little bit differently. I'm going to track how things go on a day-to-day basis because, again, since this is so small, I should be able to do quite a lot in a short amount of time. So what we're going to do here first is I've got my track plan laid out here. You can see here just a main line that runs within a couple inches along the back there, and then the spur line here that's going to be the cause of our accident spinning off here. So what I want to do, though, is I want to vary the terrain just a little bit more. I already have a river cut here, but I want to elevate all the track here, probably just an inch with some more of this 1 inch thick foam. The track is running here along a river, and it stands to reason that it could be kind of a flood zone. So we're going to elevate the track about 7 scale feet to kind of keep the track from getting flooded in those times when the river is out of its banks. So to do that, what I'm going to do is lay down a couple more pieces of this extruded foam, and this is that pink stuff. Here's the brand name for it. Even has the Pink Panther on it. Owens Corning brand, 1 inch thick by 2 foot square. So I'm going to just lay that here. I'm going to lay that on top temporarily. I'm going to put the track on top of it, and then I'm going to trace out the track layout with the cork underneath, so that I can create kind of a elevated roadbed, and it's just easier to show you after it's done than trying to demonstrate with talk. Otherwise, the nice thing about using microengineering flex track is it holds its shape, so I won't really even have to tack that in place. And the main line is straight, so it shouldn't be too big a deal. So I'm going to do that first. All right, so I have the track laid out here on my second layer of foam, and I did tack it in place because that was stupid to suggest that I didn't have to tack it in place. So I did. Anyway, I'm using these T-pins here. These are pretty handy when you're working with foam. So I've got both the track and the roadbed tacked into place. I didn't forget my little extra there for the switch block ties, whatever those are called, the extended ties to protect or for the switch stand, sorry. Anyway, and I've got my track all laid into place as it should be. So what I'm going to do now is use my Sharpie here to just draw an outline of the roadbed here with maybe about 1/4 of an inch gap between the line and the roadbed, figuring that the ballast, which that's all the roadbed really does, is just creates a profile for the ballast. So the ballast doesn't run all the way down the hill. So there'll be just kind of a little flat space along, or a gap between the edge of the roadbed and my earth embankment, I guess is what it would be, to make sure the ballast just doesn't run all the way off. So that's what I'm going to do now is draw that line, and then I'm going to remove my track and roadbed and then cut that out of the foam. All right, so I've got my earth embankment cut out. I tried to cut it at an angle so I could generate a slope with varying degrees of success. Here on this end, I totally forgot I was even going to do that. So I cut it straight down just like I'm cutting a piece off to use for something else. But that's no problem. I can fix that with some extra scenic work. But I wanted to have a slope anyway, just because it's that much less scenic material I have to use to make that slope. But as you can see here, I've got it cut out in the rough shape of the track and the roadbed. So I will lay those back down just to get a look to make sure it's what I like. I can still trim off more if I feel like, or add more back if I think I did too much. But that's the gist of that. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to cover, I tried to use 3 different knives to make this happen. I started with just a simple retractable blade here, but these two, on this long razor knife here, these two were just too flexible in order to draw across the material at an angle, and I was trying to use it kind of in this fashion, and they just wouldn't grab the material. They wouldn't cut. So I ended up having to use one of these box cutters, which is just a lot heavier duty blade and handle, and that worked just fine. So if you're trying to do this on your own, I recommend going with box cutters. All right, I've got the earth embankment tacked into place with the roadbed tacked on top of that. and the track just laid out for now. Now I don't have complete track sections laid out because I'm not worried about doing that right now. The roadbed is going to determine where the track goes anyway, so I'll come back and fill that in later when it's time to lay track. But as you can see here, I cut this section out here for the bridge. And for a reminder, this is the type of bridge I'm going to be using, just an old style wood trestle bridge with a steel deck. It's not a very big river, so that should do just fine, especially for a low-cost railroad that we're representing here. Anyway, so basically the step now is to get this glued into place, and we're going to use what I've been using all along, which is a clear DAP Alex Plus silicone acrylic caulk. And I'll spread that a good bead along everything underneath the foam, and then again underneath the cork roadbed, and then I'll spread that flat with my trusty 2-inch putty knife, or 1.5-inch putty knife. So that's the next step. I'll get that done, and then we'll check in again. So one thing I wanted to add, because now is as good a time as any, especially since we're talking about gluing sections of scenery down, is what will happen when the cars derail. So the idea is the train's going to be moving along this track, and then a rail bar somewhere in this section on the far rail is going to break, and that's going to cause the cars to derail off into this direction, down this embankment, and into the river. So when that happens, obviously the earth is going to be gouged to some degree as the weight of the cars digs in. And the one thing I couldn't decide was, should I work on those gouges now while it's just foam and no scenic material, or should I do that later? And there's two answers to that question. First of all, I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to represent that. And part of the reason why I want to get this thing more completed is I'm going to take it to this prototype modelers meet where there's a lot of professionals, both in the industry and modelers in general that have been doing this for decades longer than I have, that should hopefully be able to give me some advice as to how to represent that. So I'm not going to be doing any finished scenic work, but I also decided that if the scenery is finished, if there's grass planted, trees and all that, it would be a lot easier to figure out what would happen if a car did derail and maybe plowed into a tree or gouged into bushes or grass or whatever, and then I could just do that in a realistic manner by just using some type of tool to create a gouge that would be similar to maybe the edge of this box car or something. And I'll just, more or less destroy the scenery as would have happened in real life. So I think I'm going to go that route, especially after getting some advice. But as I said, I'm not going to do any finished scenery work until after this show. So we'll see what goes on with that, but that's kind of what I've decided for now. Okay, so all the foam and roadbed is now glued into place. Here's a little video evidence. So now the next set of problems. Okay, so as I mentioned before, I need to add some little bits of track to go all the way to the edge. And so I've got a little piece here that I need to cut to length, and a little piece here. I think what I'm going to do here, though, because I do want the track here to be cut at an angle to match the edge of the diorama. So I think what I'm going to do is cut or glue down a piece of track that does hang over like this. And then once the glue has set, I'll come back and just saw that off so it is parallel with the rest of the sub roadbed there to give a good look there. And then this one back here will be simple. I'll just make it flush with the edge. The other end here, I laid the turnout right at the edge, so I don't have to do anything there. Now, as far as connections go, the nice thing about building this diorama is it's not going to be electrically powered. I'm not ever going to run any trains on this. So I don't necessarily have to use rail joiners. And the reason why is because even though microengineering rail joiners are very small and low profile, they still stand out just a little bit. And so I have in the past tested whether or not these Details West rail bars can hold together two pieces of track. And let's see if this thing will focus here. It's too small. So anyway, so these rail bars, and when they're super glued to hold two pieces of rail together like that, it will work, but it is very soft metal, and I would hate for it to break you know, just from moving or whatnot. So I think I am going to go ahead and use rail joiners. And I apologize because I'm a little bit thinking out loud at this, that you're getting to witness, I guess. So anyway, that's why I'm still thinking about that. But I will be using rail bars every 39 feet for this track to add that detail, because if I haven't mentioned it before, this diorama is going to be a super detail, maybe even a hyper detail project, because it's something that's going to take quite a while to ultimately finish. But I do plan to take it to local train shows to exhibit, just to show what can be done in a small space. So I'm going to work on it for a while. Anyway, next problem I have to deal with here is this trestle bridge. And this is one of the two sections that come with the kit that I've shown you. I'm not even going to need a whole one here, but it has shown me pulling this out a couple of issues I need to resolve. Number one, this particular type of trestle, you can see the tie plates there. I will be actually adding rail directly to this bed here. So it means I'll have to cut all the ties off of the track where this span will be. And then the edges of the bridge itself, the supports, aren't really designed to sit at an angle like this. There's not really a good way to make that work, I don't think. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is going ahead and cutting this road bed perpendicular. So it's just a straight across 90-degree angle for both edges, just to make that work and look a little bit better. And then I can always fill in with scenic material or whatnot any angled gap that's left. And I think that'll just work a lot better. I know that there are such bridges that sit on an angle like that, but I don't think this particular kit is designed to work like that. But I might do some more research and think about that. But so these are the next two problems I have to worry about. Getting track laid, getting it all attached and cut to fit, and getting that glued down, and then getting this piece of track here modified to fit on this bridge deck. So we'll work on that and get back to you. All right, one other detail I forgot to mention, and I've written it here as a reminder both for myself and as a visual reminder for the diorama. When I glue this track down, obviously I'll be gluing the ties down to the sub road bed. I don't want to glue this section here because I think this is going to be the area where the rail is going to break and ties and rail are going to be torn asunder. And I think it'd be much more difficult to create that effect if all the ties are glued down to the cork roadbed. So I'm leaving this section here unglued so that when I come back and I'm ready to try to tear up the track to simulate how the accident occurs, it won't be too difficult to be able to manipulate both the rails and the ties once I figure out exactly how I'm going to do that. So that's the point of this no glue sign.